Hey family, friends, and neighbors, and welcome back to the channel. We're glad that you're here. And today I just had some questions that come up. My wife Patricia and I do some things on Instagram. We do some question and answer things. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about our relationship and our relationship with each other, our relationship with our kids. And so today I thought we would talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships and maybe even how to move them from one spot to another. But we'll take a look at relationships today. Just for some background, because I know it's my wife and I have been married about 29 years, actually 29 years this August, and it's easy to go, well, you guys have this great relationship, so it's easy for you to talk about these things. And so I want to get in a little bit about our story, and then I'm just going to talk about two big rock items when it comes to relationships, two foundational traits of relationships that can make them either healthy or unhealthy. We're not going to cover the whole of it because there's too many different kinds of relationships. There's too many specific circumstances. But if you have questions, if this stirs up questions for you, please drop them in the comment box. Hit the subscribe button so you can find us. Ring the notification bell so you know when we post something new. And maybe we're dealing with your question. But you can put your questions in the comments below, or you can email me and get questions to me that way, or maybe take a little more word space to articulate your question. Also, just before we kind of get into things, I do like to write. I've written a number of books. It kind of helps me process things, to get things down on paper. And I have this book called The Treasure of Heaven, and it is about relationships. All kinds of treasure we can amass for ourselves here, but none of it we can take with us, except our relationships. Those will be with us when we cross over into eternity. And so the book talks about healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships, how to make unhealthy ones healthy. And it covers, because the Bible covers every relationship, from spouses to parents to children, children to parents, neighbors, enemies. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. There's not a relationship, a human relationship, that the Bible doesn't cover. And so we kind of go through all those and talk about a healthy relationship. So if you'd like a copy of that, I can send you one. I can send you a PDF if that's easier for you. The first one's free. I'll just send it to you. Above and beyond that, I would ask for about $5 for shipping, and just to kind of cover the cost of that stuff. So there you have that. Now, relationships, two key things in regard to relationships. The first one is your perspective of the relationship. Now, my wife and I, like I said, we've been married about 29 years, but we were actually engaged twice. The first time around, we had our own priorities, and neither of them were good. For myself, and because I can really only speak to my own side of things, I had made her my everything and my world. And so everything I did was to make her happy, to keep her in my life, to try and stabilize the relationship that way. Our relationship we got engaged, that lasted about 9 months, and then she found someone more interesting, and then we broke up, and it was this painful, very messy time. And we were separated for another 9 months, doing our own thing. And that's when she came to realize who Jesus was, what he'd done for her, what that meant for her, and what that meant for the people in her life. And so she ended the relationship that she was in. She came in to reconcile with me with no real expectation, just to reconcile for her part. And that brought me back into this faith that I had been raised in. And then I had realized that everything I'd been taught, if it was true, I needed to start living like it was true. So we got serious about our faith. We got back together. We wound up getting engaged. And now, with a whole new set of priorities and a whole new set of values, we began to build this relationship that has been that has been very good, very enriching, very life-giving, and it has blessed not only us but our kids, our parents, the people around us, the people in our church. And so the very first thing is, how do you see your relationship? Do you see it as in regard to what you get out of it, or do you see it as to how it affects everyone else around you? Is it something that's going to make the world a better place, or is it really just about you getting what you want? So, like in my case, I made her my everything. I made her my world. And that is very unfair, because no one can fulfill that. No one can meet that expectation. And so whether we're talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, fiancés, or spouses, whether we're talking about parents to children or children to parents, if we have expectations that we have placed on those people, we need to be very, very careful that we're not basing this relationship. It's okay to have some expectations of what's in the relationship, but we need to be open about those. We need to communicate them. They need to, each person needs to know what the expectations of that relationship are. And so when I've done marriage counseling, it's, what are your expectations about kids? What are your expectations about finances? What are your expectations about home ownership versus renting? As you look at your future, what are some of these expectations? Because you both need to understand what those are and how to proceed. So expectations can be good, but if we are expecting someone to meet all our needs, or to be that one big goal that we want to accomplish, that's too much to place on anyone. You're setting them up for failure, and that's going to come out in the relationship through bitterness, through resentment from either party. And so we want to make sure that we're building a healthy relationship, not just for what we can get out of it, but for what it can produce in the world around us. Is this a healthy relationship? Is it a good example for people to learn from? Is it a blessing to us? Is it a blessing to the people who know us and around us? If it's parent to child, is the way I deal with my child, does that encourage my other kids, or am I ruling by fear? Those kinds of things. So what is your perspective of your relationship? Are you looking at it through the lens of a bigger picture, or is it really just about what you can get out of it? Because if we enter any relationship that is selfish that way, is going to be an unhealthy relationship. The second thing that I would bring up, because every relationship is difficult, right? Healthy relationships don't happen naturally. We have to work at them. And when we run into problems, because you always will, right? The honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. And whether it's, you're a new parent and that innocent little child, and they start to grow and everything, all their firsts are just angelic, and then the terrible twos come. Not all my kids had those, but if the terrible twos come and now you run into problems, and then the teen years come and you run into more problems, what do? Do you look at that person as a problem to solve, or do you look at them as a partner with you in identifying and solving the problem? And this is important for spouses. It's important for parents and children as well. There's a dynamic that happens in the parent-child relationship. When the child is a baby, you have all authority and no influence. You're down here. You have very high authority and very low influence. But as they start to age and think for themselves, that dynamic starts to flip. So right around the time that they're around early teens, you have very little direct authority. You can't just pick them up and move them anymore. But if you've done it right, you have more influence. And they're learning to take more responsibility. They're learning to have more control over their world, over their room, over their schoolwork. And with that responsibility comes consequences if they do or don't measure up. But they've been learning this. And my adult children, I have kind of technically have 9, but there are 7 that are still very much a part of our lives. And my adult children, though they're not under my authority at all because they're their own adults, they still call, text, come over asking our counsel, asking our advice, because we have that influence. And we were very blessed to learn some of these things early, or just learn them the hard way and make corrections. And so that's something I also want to put out there is, and a relationship is unhealthy, that's not the end of the story. It's going to take more work. There may be more trust to be earned. It's going to be difficult, but you can do it. If you have questions, if you have comments, put them down in the comments section. Again, you can email me. If you would like a copy of the book, let me know. Email me with that and let me know where to send it, and I will get that to you. But for now, we'll see you next time as we wrestle with some honest answers to some honest questions, and we try to get through some of this life together and be better for it. Talk to you later.